In South Africa, former First Lady Esther Lungu just faced the kind of public humiliation no one imagined. Crowds shouted, fingers pointed, and one message echoed everywhere: go back to Zambia and face the law. But was this just anger from the streets, or part of a bigger political game? Tonight, we uncover how Esther Lungu's presence in South Africa sparked outrage, why Zambia is watching closely, and what this confrontation could mean for the Lungu family's future. Stay with us, because the real story is just beginning. Esther Lungu has once again found herself at the center of controversy. In South Africa, angry citizens confronted her, demanding that she return to Zambia to face justice. But behind this shocking confrontation lies a deeper story, one that touches Zambia's politics, President Hakainde Hichilema's government, and even global power dynamics. Was this a genuine cry for justice, or a carefully orchestrated humiliation? What does this mean for the Lungu family's future in Zambia? And why is South Africa suddenly so involved in Zambia's political drama? In this video, we break down the events, the hidden players, and the implications for both Zambia and Africa at large. Shocking confrontation in South Africa. The narrative of Esther Lungu's humiliation in South Africa stems from a highly publicized legal battle over the repatriation of her late husband, former Zambian President Edgar Lungu's body, following his death on June 5, 2025, in Pretoria, South Africa. The confrontation was not a singular dramatic event, but a culmination of legal, emotional, and political tensions that played out in South African courts, drawing significant attention in both Zambia and South Africa. Below, I'll unpack the context, events, and public reactions that frame this as a shocking confrontation. Key events in the confrontation. June 5, 2025. Edgar Lungu dies in Pretoria's Mediclinic Medforum due to cardiac complications from surgery. The Zambian government declares 7 days of mourning, but tensions arise as the Lungu family resists repatriation. June 25, 2025. The Pretoria High Court halts a private burial in Johannesburg following an urgent application by the Zambian government. Mourners at the Cathedral of Christ the King in Johannesburg are informed of the delay after a funeral mass, causing confusion and distress. August 8, 2025. The Pretoria High Court rules in favor of the Zambian government, ordering the Lungu family to surrender Edgar's body for repatriation and a state funeral. The ruling prompts an emotional reaction from Bertha Lungu, amplifying media narratives of the family's distress. August 15, 2025. The Lungu family, represented by prominent South African human rights lawyer Thembeka Ngukuratobi SC, files for leave to appeal the ruling. The court adjourns the case to August 18 to allow negotiations, indicating ongoing talks between the family and the Zambian government. Constitutional Court appeal. The Lungu family escalates the matter to South Africa's Constitutional Court, arguing that the state should not dictate burial arrangements. This move underscores their determination to resist repatriation. Why was it shocking? The confrontation was deemed shocking for several reasons. Emotional public display. Bertha Lungu's courtroom outburst, coupled with the family's visible distress, was widely covered by media outlets like the BBC and Reuters, framing the situation as a public humiliation. The image of a grieving family clashing with state authorities in a foreign court resonated as a dramatic and undignified spectacle. Political undertones. The dispute laid bare the deep-seated animosity between Edgar Lungu and Hakainde Hichilema, which persisted even after Lungu's death. The family's insistence that Hichilema not attend the funeral highlighted a personal and political feud that shocked observers expecting national unity in mourning a former president. Cultural sensitivities. In Zambia, where respect for the dead is a significant cultural value, the public wrangling over Lungu's body was seen as disrespectful and divisive. Historian Sishiwa criticized the government's approach as culturally insensitive, arguing it fueled perceptions of political vendettas and even occult motives in a country where witchcraft beliefs are prevalent. International dimension. The involvement of South African courts in a Zambian national matter added a layer of complexity, raising questions about sovereignty and interstate relations. The court's ruling against the family's wishes was perceived by some as an overreach, intensifying the sense of humiliation. Public and media reactions. The confrontation garnered significant attention on platforms like X, where posts reflected polarized sentiments. Some users, like at Buyoya Jonah, reported the court's ruling factually, while others, such as at Africa Fact Zone, highlighted the Lungu family's legal troubles, including Esther's corruption charges, framing the confrontation as part of a broader narrative of accountability. Zambian media, particularly the Zambian Observer, described the family's actions as shameful and accused them of undermining national legacy, further amplifying the perception of humiliation. In South Africa, the case was covered by outlets like News 24 and Reuters, which emphasized the emotional toll on the Lungu family and the legal complexities of cross-border disputes. The involvement of high-profile lawyer Thembeka Ngukuratobi added gravitas to the family's defense, but the repeated court losses and public outbursts overshadowed their efforts, contributing to the narrative of a shocking confrontation. Analysis. The confrontation was less about a single event and more about a series of legal and emotional clashes that exposed the fragility of Zambia's political unity and the Lungu family's precarious position. Esther Lungu, as the former First Lady, became the face of the family's resistance, and her affidavit to the Pretoria High Court detailing Edgar's wishes and the family's intent to settle in South Africa Africa intensified scrutiny. The public nature of the court proceedings, combined with the family's emotional reactions, created a perception of humiliation, particularly as they were seen to be defying both Zambian tradition and legal rulings. However, the family's perspective, as articulated by Esther and their lawyer, was that they were fighting to honor Edgar's wishes against a government they viewed as vindictive. This dichotomy between national protocol and personal wishes lies at the heart of the shocking narrative. Why Esther Lungu is under fire. Esther Lungu, Zambia's former First Lady, has faced significant scrutiny and legal challenges, both in Zambia and South Africa, which have placed her under fire in the public and political spheres. This section explores the reasons behind the scrutiny, focusing on her legal troubles, her role in the burial dispute, and the broader context of her family's political and legal battles with the Hichilema administration. Legal troubles in Zambia. Esther Lungu's most prominent source of controversy stems from corruption and fraud charges leveled against her by Zambia's Drug Enforcement Commission (DEC). These charges are part of a broader anti-corruption campaign launched by President Hakainde Hichilema's administration, targeting former officials and associates of Edgar Lungu's Patriotic Front (PF) government. Key incidents include: May 2024 arrest. Esther Lungu and her daughter Chieso Katit were arrested in Lusaka on suspicion of fraudulently acquiring a $1.5 million estate comprising 15 luxury double-story flats in the State Lodge area of Chongwe. The DEC alleged these properties were proceeds of crime, as Esther could not provide a reasonable explanation for their acquisition between 2015 and 2023. Another relative, Charles Fairai, was also arrested. October 2024 court ruling. A Zambian court ordered Esther to return the 15 luxury flats, valued at $1.4 million, ruling that she could not prove how she acquired them. This decision reinforced perceptions of corruption during Edgar Lungu's presidency and intensified scrutiny on Esther. September 2023 arrest. Esther faced earlier corruption allegations involving theft of motor vehicles and title deeds, which she denied. These charges, though less detailed in the public record, contributed to the narrative of her being targeted by the Hichilema government. These legal actions have painted Esther as a central figure in allegations of financial misconduct, with critics arguing that her wealth was amassed through corrupt means during her husband's presidency. The Zambian Observer and other outlets have suggested that the Lungu family's wealth came at the expense of Zambian citizens, diverting resources from critical infrastructure and public services. Role in the burial dispute. Esther Lungu's prominence in the legal battle over Edgar Lungu's burial has further fueled public and media criticism. Her affidavit to the Pretoria High Court outlined several contentious points. Edgar's wishes. Esther claimed that her husband explicitly instructed that Hichilema should not be involved in his funeral, citing their bitter rivalry. She argued that a state funeral in Zambia, presided over by Hichilema, would violate Edgar's dying wishes. Asylum intentions. Esther revealed the family's desire to settle permanently in South Africa, citing fears of persecution and interference by Zambian authorities. She claimed that Edgar was denied timely medical treatment in Zambia, which could have prevented his death from esophageal cancer. This narrative of victimhood has been met with skepticism by some, who view it as an attempt to evade accountability. Legal resistance. Esther's leadership in appealing the Pretoria High Court's ruling and escalating the case to South Africa's Constitutional Court has been portrayed by critics as obstructionist. Outlets like the Zambian Observer have accused her of undermining Zambia's national interest and disrespecting Edgar's legacy as a former president. Her actions in court, coupled with the family's emotional outbursts, have been framed as defiant and divisive, contributing to the perception that she is under fire for prioritizing personal grievances over national protocol. Public and media criticism. Esther Lungu has faced harsh criticism in Zambian media and on platforms like X. Media narratives. Outlets like the Zambian Observer have accused Esther and her family of selfishness, claiming their legal battles are an attempt to protect ill-gotten wealth and evade accountability. Articles like A Coffin Full of Secrets suggest that the family's push for a South African burial is a strategic move to seek asylum and avoid Zambian courts. Social media sentiment. Posts on X, such as those by @AfricaFactZone, highlight Esther's legal troubles, framing her as a symbol of corruption from the Lungu era. Supporters, however, argue that she is being unfairly targeted to weaken the PF's political influence ahead of the 2026 elections. Cultural backlash. In Zambia, where respect for the dead is paramount, Esther's resistance to a state funeral has been criticized as disrespectful to national traditions. Historian Sishiwa Sishiwa noted that the government's actions, while heavy-handed, were exacerbated by the family's refusal to compromise, further polarizing public opinion. Analysis. Esther Lungu is under fire due to a combination of legal, political, and cultural factors. Her corruption charges have made her a focal point of Hichilema's anti-corruption campaign, raising questions about the legitimacy of her wealth and her role during Edgar's presidency. Her leadership in the burial dispute has cast her as a defiant figure, challenging both Zambian state authority and cultural norms. While her supporters argue that she is a victim of political persecution, critics see her actions as an attempt to evade justice and protect her family's interests. The interplay of these factors, legal accountability, political rivalry, and cultural expectations, has placed Esther Lungu at the center of a contentious and highly publicized storm. The Lungu family's legal legal troubles in Zambia? The Lungu family's legal troubles in Zambia are a significant aspect of the broader narrative surrounding Esther Lungu and the legacy of Edgar Lungu's presidency. These troubles primarily revolve around corruption and fraud allegations, which have targeted Esther, her daughter Chieso Katit, and other relatives. Below, I'll detail the specific legal issues, their political context, and their implications for the family and Zambian politics. Specific legal cases. Esther Lungu's fraud charges. May 2024 arrest. Esther Lungu, her daughter Chieso Katit, and relative Charles Fairai were arrested by the DEC for possessing properties suspected to be proceeds of crime. The primary focus was a $1.5 million estate in Lusaka's State Lodge area, comprising 15 double-story flats. The DEC alleged that Esther could not explain how she acquired these properties, which were purchased between 2015 and 2023. October 2024 court ruling. A Zambian court ordered Esther to forfeit the 15 flats, valued at $1.4 million, ruling that they were acquired through criminal proceeds. This decision was a significant blow to the family, reinforcing allegations of corruption during Edgar Lungu's presidency. September 2023 arrest. Esther faced earlier charges of theft involving motor vehicles and title deeds. Although she was released on bond, these allegations added to the narrative of financial misconduct. Chieso Katit's charges. Chieso, Esther's daughter, was arrested alongside her mother in May 2024 for possessing 3 flats and a high-cost house in Lusaka, also suspected to be proceeds of crime. The DEC further alleged she owned 4 chicken runs and associated properties, which she could not adequately explain. These charges align with the broader anti-corruption campaign targeting the Lungu family, suggesting that Chieso benefited from her father's position as president. Tassila Lungu's legal issues. Tassila Lungu, another daughter and the Member of Parliament for Chiwama, faces corruption charges related to her financial dealings. While specific details are less clear in the public record, her involvement in the family's legal battles has been noted, particularly in the context of the burial dispute, where she was seen comforting her Aunt Bertha in court. Analysis. The Lungu family's legal troubles are a microcosm of Zambia's post-2021 political landscape, where the push for accountability clashes with accusations of vendettas. Esther Lungu's high-profile arrests and court rulings have made her a lightning rod for criticism, with her wealth seen as evidence of systemic corruption under her husband's rule. However, the family's claims of persecution resonate with PF supporters, who view the legal actions as an attempt to marginalize their political base. The truth likely lies in a complex interplay of genuine anti-corruption efforts and political maneuvering, with the Lungu family caught in the crossfire. South Africa's role in the saga. South Africa's involvement in the Lungu family's legal and burial disputes is multifaceted, encompassing its judicial system, diplomatic considerations, and regional influence. As the location of Edgar Lungu's death and the subsequent legal battles, South Africa has played a pivotal role in shaping the narrative and outcomes of this saga. This section examines South Africa's judicial rulings, diplomatic stance, and broader implications for its role in African politics. Judicial role. South African courts have been central to the dispute over Edgar Lungu's burial. Pretoria High Court rulings. June 25, 2025. The Pretoria High Court granted an urgent injunction to halt a private burial planned by the Lungu family in Johannesburg, following a request by the Zambian government. This decision came hours before the ceremony, causing chaos for mourners and highlighting South Africa's legal authority in the matter. August 8, 2025. Judge Aubrey Ledwaba ruled that the Zambian government was entitled to repatriate Lungu's body for a state funeral, ordering the family to surrender it immediately. The ruling emphasized Zambia's sovereign right to honor its former president, despite the family's objections. August 15, 2025. The court adjourned a hearing on the Lungu family's appeal to August 18, allowing time for negotiations. This decision reflected South Africa's attempt to balance legal obligations with facilitating dialogue. Constitutional Court appeal. The Lungu family escalated the case to South Africa's Constitutional Court, arguing that the state should not dictate burial arrangements. This move underscores South Africa's role as a venue for high-stakes legal battles with international implications. The involvement of prominent South African lawyer Tembeka Ngukuratobi SC, known for his human rights work, added credibility to the family's case, but also highlighted South Africa's sophisticated legal system as a battleground for such disputes. Broader implications. South Africa's role in this saga has implications for its position in African politics. Regional leadership. As a leading democracy in Africa, South Africa's handling of the dispute reinforces its reputation for judicial independence and respect for legal processes. However, it also places South Africa in a challenging position, balancing its obligations to Zambia with the rights of the Lungu family, who are seeking asylum. Precedent for interstate disputes. The case raises questions about how African nations handle cross-border legal issues involving former leaders. South Africa's decision to prioritize Zambia's claim could set a precedent for similar disputes, potentially affecting its relations with other nations. Public perception. In South Africa, media coverage has focused on the emotional and legal aspects of the case, with some outlets questioning whether the country is being used as a haven for those evading justice. The Zambian Observer's article, "A Coffin Full of Secrets," suggested that South Africa risks suspects complicity in sheltering the Lungu family, a narrative that could strain public sentiment. Analysis. South Africa's role is both judicial and diplomatic, reflecting its status as a regional powerhouse with a robust legal system. The Pretoria High Court's rulings have upheld Zambia's sovereign rights while acknowledging the Lungu family's grievances, creating a delicate balance. Diplomatically, South Africa has avoided alienating either party, but its court's decisions have leaned toward supporting Zambia's claim, potentially at the cost of appearing to sideline the family's wishes. The escalation to the Constitutional Court suggests that South Africa will continue to play a central role in resolving this saga, with implications for its reputation as a neutral arbiter in African disputes. What this means for HH and Zambian politics. The dispute over Edgar Lungu's burial and the Lungu family's legal troubles have significant implications for President Hakainde Hichilema (HH) and Zambian politics. This section analyzes the political, social, and cultural ramifications, focusing on Hichilema's leadership, the UPN-DPF rivalry, and the broader political landscape ahead of the 2026 elections. Impact on Hichilema's leadership. Hichilema's handling of the Lungu burial dispute and the anti-corruption campaign has shaped his public image. Perception of vindictiveness. Critics, including historian Sishiwa, argue that Hichilema's insistence on a state funeral, despite the Lungu family's objections, fuels perceptions of political vendettas. The failure to publicly commit to staying away from the funeral, as Lungu requested, has deepened divisions and lent credence to claims of personal animosity. Anti-corruption agenda. The legal actions against Esther Lungu and her relatives are central to Hichilema's anti-corruption drive, which he has framed as essential for recovering looted resources. Successes like the forfeiture of Esther's $1.4 million flats bolster his image as a reformer, but critics argue that selective targeting risks undermining the campaign's legitimacy. Institutional authority. Hichilema's push for a state funeral reflects his commitment to institutional continuity, as articulated in the Mail and Guardian. By asserting the state's right to honor former presidents, he reinforces Zambia's sovereignty and protocols, but at the cost of alienating Lungu's supporters. UPN-DPF rivalry. The dispute has exacerbated tensions between the UPND and PF. Political polarization. The burial row has scuppered hopes of reconciliation between the two parties, with the PF accusing the UPND of using Lungu's death for political gain. Information Minister Cornelius Muitwa's dismissal of PF concerns as an attempt to stage a political comeback highlights the ongoing rivalry. PF's influence. Despite Lungu's death and his ineligibility to run in 2026 due to a constitutional court ruling, the PF remains a significant force. The party's organization of a memorial service in Pretoria and its rejection of the government's mourning plans demonstrate its ability to mobilize supporters, posing a challenge to Hichilema. 2026 elections. The legal troubles of the Lungu family and the burial dispute could galvanize PF supporters who view the UPND's actions as persecution. This could strengthen the PF's campaign narrative, though the loss of Lungu as a figurehead may weaken its electoral prospects. Social and cultural ramifications. Cultural sensitivities. The dispute has sparked debate about cultural norms in Zambia, where respect for the dead is paramount. Sishiwa criticized the government's approach as culturally insensitive, noting that it has fueled rumors of occult motives. This perception could erode public trust in Hichilema's administration. National unity. Hichilema's call for peace, dignity, and togetherness has been undermined by the protracted dispute, which has left many Zambians confused about how to mourn their former president. The cancellation of planned funeral arrangements and the shortened mourning period have added to public frustration. Broader political landscape. Institutional resilience. The Mail and Guardian argues that Zambia's insistence on repatriation reflects institutional maturity, prioritizing state protocols over personal disputes. However, the heavy-handed approach risks alienating segments of the population, particularly in PF strongholds. Regional implications. The dispute's international dimension, involving South African courts, highlights the complexities of post-colonial statecraft. Hichilema's success in securing repatriation could strengthen Zambia's regional standing, but may strain relations with South Africa if the Lungu family's asylum claims gain traction. Analysis. For Hichilema, the Lungu saga is a double-edged sword. His anti-corruption campaign and insistence on a state funeral reinforce his commitment to accountability and institutional continuity, but they also risk deepening political divisions and alienating PF supporters. The 2026 elections loom large, and the handling of this dispute could shape voter perceptions of Hichilema's leadership. While the UPND frames its actions as necessary for justice and national protocol, the PF and Lungu supporters see them as vindictive, setting the stage for a contentious political battle. Esther Lungu's next move. Predicting Esther Lungu's next move requires analyzing her current position, the legal and political constraints she faces, and her stated intentions. This section explores potential courses of action based on the available information and the broader context of her family's situation. Current position. Legal challenges. Esther faces ongoing corruption charges in Zambia, with the forfeiture of her $1.4 million flats marking a significant setback. Her daughter Chieso and other relatives are also under investigation, increasing the family's legal vulnerabilities. Burial dispute. The Lungu family's appeal to South Africa's Constitutional Court indicates a determination to fight repatriation, but the adjournment to August 18, 2025 suggests ongoing negotiations with the Zambian government. Asylum intentions. Esther's affidavit revealed the family's desire to settle permanently in South Africa, citing fears of persecution and interference in Zambia. This suggests a strategic shift toward seeking asylum or long-term residency. Potential next moves. Pursuing the Constitutional Court appeal. Esther and her family, represented by Tembika Ngukuratobi, are likely to continue their appeal to South Africa's Constitutional Court. Their argument that the state cannot dictate burial arrangements seeks to establish a legal precedent protecting individual rights over state protocols. If successful, this could allow a private burial in South Africa, aligning with Edgar's wishes. However, the Pretoria High Court's ruling and the lack of enforceable legal evidence, e.g., a will, weaken their case. The Constitutional Court may dismiss the appeal, forcing Esther to comply with repatriation or escalate to other legal avenues. Negotiating with the Zambian government. The adjournment of the appeal hearing to August 18 indicates that Esther is open to negotiations. A compromise could involve agreeing to a state funeral in Zambia with conditions such as limiting Hichilema's role or ensuring family oversight. Previous negotiations in June 2025 reached a tentative agreement before collapsing, suggesting that a resolution is possible but challenging. A negotiated settlement could allow Esther to maintain some dignity while avoiding further legal setbacks, but it would require concessions that may conflict with her stance against Hichilema's involvement. Seeking asylum in South Africa. Esther's affidavit explicitly stated the family's intent to settle in South Africa, citing fears of persecution and past interference in Edgar's medical care. Seeking formal asylum could protect the family from extradition to face corruption charges in Zambia, but it would require proving political persecution, a high legal threshold. This move could strain Zambia-South Africa relations and draw criticism from Zambian media, which have accused the family of using Edgar's death to evade justice. It would also likely end any political ambitions, such as Tassila's parliamentary role. Returning to Zambia to face charges. Esther could choose to return to Zambia to confront the corruption charges, potentially challenging them in court to clear her name. This would require significant legal resources and a willingness to face a judicial system perceived as hostile by the family. Given the forfeiture of her properties and the government's aggressive anti-corruption stance, this option carries high risks but could allow her to maintain a public presence in Zambia and rally PF support. Maintaining a low profile. Esther could opt to withdraw from public disputes, focusing on family matters and avoiding further confrontation. This would involve complying with the repatriation order and addressing legal issues discreetly, potentially through out-of-court settlements. However, this seems unlikely given her active role in the legal battles and her public statements. Analysis. Esther Lungu's next move will likely involve a combination of legal resistance and strategic retreat. The Constitutional Court appeal offers a chance to delay repatriation and assert her family's rights, but its success is uncertain given the legal weaknesses identified in the Pretoria High Court. Negotiations with the Zambian government appear to be the most pragmatic path, potentially allowing a dignified resolution, but the family's distrust of Hichilema complicates this. Seeking asylum in South Africa is a high-stakes option that could protect the family from legal accountability but risks alienating Zambian supporters and damaging their legacy. Esther's ultimate decision will depend on balancing her family's interests, legal realities, and the political fallout in Zambia.